Hello everyone, this is Turin here, and today guys I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle I'm going to be playing the Empire, and I'm actually facing off against the Greenskins. So my opponent has a very sneaky strategy, which I thought was awesome considering it's a huge map and definitely a lot of good Vanguard opportunities. Over here on the far side he actually has some Night Goblins Vanguard deployed, including the Warlord's Boys. Over here he also has the regiment around the Fanatics, I believe. Are these the Fanatics or are they the regular? Yeah, they're the Fanatics. And then he has the Night Goblin Shaman as well as more Night Goblins. So in the back he even has some Goblin Wolf Riders, but guys, it's going to be a fun battle. So I really was having a lot of fun with VOLKMAR the Grim, and he seems to be pretty decent against the Greenskins. This was maybe the third or fourth game I had tried in the course of a day against the Greenskin players. Well, not a day, but over the course of a few days. And I was also partially inspired by the Gabo King when we played that Chaos modded battle when VOLKMAR just racked up like 200 or 300 kills against my Chaos Warriors. So decided to give him a try and see how he does on ladder. So in the front line, I have mostly Flagellants as well as Sigmar's Sons and the Tatter Souls, which are a pretty solid front line against the Greenskins. They're really going to hold. They're not going to break even to the heavy shock damage that like Savage Orcs can do. So I like these guys as a pick. In the back, I do have a single group of Great Swords, so I just wanted to have something a little bit more substantial. So if like one part of my line did take a massive amount of shock damage and did falter, I could then plug it up with Great Swords. And if you happen to bring Black Orcs, these guys would be pretty, decent as well. So I do have the Zintler's Reichsguard as well as the regular Reichsguard. So Reichsguard against Greenskins are really good in the front line, and I honestly think one of the more optimal strategies is to mix in the Tatter Souls, Flagellants, and then just, play it like you're playing Bretonnia, where you use the Grail Guardians and you push them through your infantry line and do a ton of massive shock damage to the Greenskins. So that's what the Zintler's Reichsguard are for, as well as this other group of Reichsguard. I do have the Free Company Militia, Sterling's Revenge. The Silver Bullets over here on the far side, pretty much must picks in competitive play in my opinion. And then the mighty VOLKMAR the Grim with all of his buffs. And guys, I actually did bring Banishment as well. So it actually did pretty well for me this game. So I'm excited to show you guys that. In the flanks, I do have two groups of spears on both sides. And that's pretty much it for my Empire force led by VOLKMAR the Grim. It's a bit of a Crusade build. It's just missing like a Temple Hoff and a Warrior Priest. But, it's part of the way there. So my opponent has the Vanguard forces I showed you. But aside from that, he has somewhat of a standard army. A bunch of Savage Orcs, which are a very, good pick against Empire front line. They have high weapon strength, physical resist against the Flagellants and those traditional infantry. They're pretty good for the 550 you're paying. He does have a pretty heavy Goblin firing line. He has a Night Goblins, the Rusty Arrows, as well as some regular, so just three groups of Night Goblins. This is probably one of my favorite, synergies. It's just to use the Rusty Arrows with two groups of Poison Night Goblin Archers, so they can stalk, they can get that advantageous position, and then they can do their job. The Orc Boar Boy Biggins, he's got the Broken Tusk Mob over here, Nasty Skulkers, and Orc Biggins in the back. So Nasty Skulkers are a great inclusion in the back line. So both of us decided to play with a little bit of alternative lords here. He does have Skarsnik himself with the Prodder, so we're both just going full on. The one drawback of VOLKMAR, even though he's pretty strong, he has the Jade Idol, he has self-healing, is that he costs like almost 3,000 gold when I fully kitted him out. So imagine if he brought like a General of the Empire, right? And like how much more like troop density I could have here. But he's pretty impactful in the battle, guys. You guys will see. He does some work. I mean, he has a bunch of good auras. Let me go ahead and click on him, see if it'll stay. So, Unbreakable, firstly. And on top of that, he does have the miscast chance to nearby troops. My opponent's just hiding in the forest with a Night Goblin Shaman. So, he does give 8 leadership. So, if you're in a last stand situation, it's going to be pretty strong. So, my opponent, he actually like caught me off guard here a little bit. So, he used the Night Shroud, which upgraded, so 96% visibility range and 30% accuracy debuff. So I couldn't like see these guys, and I don't know what was going on. I thought I was going to get ambushed, and I think that's what his plan was too, so the Night Goblins could get right up on me. So at that point I was immediately suspicious, so I kind of like tried to get my bearings. You can see I'm detaching some spears over here on the flank to kind of protect over here, and in the back I am pulling back my spears here as well as my Sterling's Revenge because they're being focused very heavily. So in the front you guys can see the Flagellants are going to kind of charge in against some of these Savage Orcs, and the Savage Orcs I think would probably win in a straight up trade. But over on the far side you can see my Reichsguard are also coming in pretty hot. Very, very bad. It's going to be a very, just a bloody fight here in the front line. I mean, neither of these guys are wearing shirts, so, that's always a good time. So the Great Swords are pushing in to just support. I definitely sensed a lot of kind of power here from my opponent. And also these Reichsguard are going to charge right through the front line. And this is by far one of the coolest like cinematic type shots, is when you get like Cav charging through infantry to like just lance these orcs. So you can see this guy gets his arm taken off. And this group is just going to get eradicated right here. These Savage Orcs, once the Reichsguard sit there for a moment. You can also see VOLKMAR the Grim on his altar just literally running these guys over. This guy just got the brunt of it. He's popping all of his different buffs. So you can see right now he has the Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, buffing all these guys in the front line. So let's go ahead and see. Yeah, so these Tatter Souls right now have 77 melee attacks. So they're going to outtrade these Savage Orcs, especially with that buff taken into account. The Grand Soulfire, and he's going to terror out these guys pretty bad. In the back, some Night Goblins do get rode down as well, so these Reichsguard are going to catch them, but he definitely baited me pretty well because he hid the Orc Boars in the forest. So I come in there, I'm like, oh, look, some free Goblins. Let's go ahead and, go feast in. I was pulling back my spears, my missiles, but he just had so much stuff. And unfortunately, my opponent does come in and gets a great countercharge with his Boars, and is going to get onto these very expensive Zintler's Reichsguard, and he will probably outtrade me here with that anti-large armor piercing. So on top of that, he has a bunch of Night Goblins swarming my back line. In a desperate maneuver, I did have to use these spears to kind of intercept these Night Goblins, which is rough. Over here, you can see I have my silver bullets kind of shooting at some of these Night Goblin riders, you know, picking them off as they ride around. And I have a group of spears defending them. But guys, I didn't have enough to deal with all this. So the Warlords boys and all these other troops are coming out of the back line. But for the most part, my opponent's front has been heavily compromised. You can see Volkmar the Grim is literally just going ham in the front line. He's just riding around, just running people over. He's taken like absolutely barely any damage considering he's been like in enemy forces. It looks like he's bugging out a little bit there, but 34 kills right now, and it looks like there are some itchy nuisances going off for my opponent. He does have Skarsnik in the pocket as well, and you can see my guns here getting some nice shots over here on these Wolf Riders. But, you know, unfortunately for me, this is not going to be a good situation. All these Orc Boars are going to charge in. Let's give you guys a little slow-mo action. So they're charging in there. They're lancing. I do have spears kind of mixed in, but still, this line is heavily compromised. It's surrounded on all fronts. You can see goblins in the back are prison shanking these guys. So my opponent gets a really good kind of engagement, and his strategy is, you know, finally coming into fruition. So this group is essentially doomed, these silver bullets and these spears, but in the front, it's a very different story. Skarsnik is heavily surrounded by a lot of my troops here. You can see it looks like he's using his prodder. You can see Volkmar just kind of riding around on his chariot, just riding these guys down, just no mercy. And he's going to do some serious work. He is taking fire from the Night Goblin archers in the back, but he's going to get a ton of kills. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I do use my banishment soon. I really wanted to show you guys, but he does use the Grand Soulfire, which does pretty good HP damage, actually. That was not bad at all. So he's riding around on his pimp cart. Things are looking good, but my other group of Reiksguard did escape, and they got into the back of his line here, and are definitely going to be able to clean up shop here on all of these goblins. So very, very good stuff in the back line, at least. Over on the far side, Volkmar the Grim is continuing to just ride around. And did he just run over an Orc Boar Boy Biggin? There's Volkmar the Grim in the back with the chair. WWE commentary is the best. But yes, he does ride that guy over. He's able to, you know, he didn't terror out these guys, but he definitely kind of wards them off here. You can see the Sterling's Revenge in a desperate fight in the forest, just kicking goblins in the face. And I think the Sterling's Revenge will actually win this fight when they're being buffed by Volkmar, because you can see they do have the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, bringing their melee attack to 72, which is pretty much that of an elite unit. So they are being jumped by the Biggins, but these guys have racked up 44 kills even considering this like rough circumstance. And Volkmar in condensed pocket fights like this is a monster. He gives leadership, he gives damage resist, melee attack. He just runs shit over, terror routes them. He's just an absolute beast in these type of situations. So if you can drag the battle to this point, like he's going to be pretty hard. And you can see, look at the banishment there, just picking up all these goblins and dragging them to the Shadow Realm. And that does a bunch of damage actually, guys. I got it off like a few times, and it actually looks like it just, you know, terrified or at least drove a lot of those goblins off the battlefield. So very cool stuff. Volkmar right now is up to 55 kills, so not as much as, you know, he did in the Chaos Custom mod, but he's still performing very well. So over here you can see these Reiksguard and other troops are going to charge in and reinforce their allies who are, you know, heavily surrounded by these goblins, so they're going flying into the distance. Man, this was definitely one of the more fun battles I've had in quite some time. So the Gobbos are just literally getting chucked by Reiksguard, some good old charge-born guys, and it looks like their line is breaking, guys. Though the balance of power is pretty even still, I'm at 288 to his 733, so my opponent is going to countercharge me. So I charged in, had some heroic moment, but he's going to do the exact same thing. So all these Orc Boars are going to charge in and just start lancing some of my Reiksguard here. You can see these guys in the back take immediate shock damage and just go down. So very, very well played by my opponent, counteracting my move tit for tat. The one thing I do have going for me is that my Lord is in impeccable shape, and Skarsnik is fleeing off the battlefield. So Volkmar the Grim is probably going to be the difference in this battle. If you guys can see the balance of power starting to shift in my favor, and he is just running fools over. He's got 73 kills, you know, and all my troops here are essentially unbreakable except the Reiksguard, who are still confident, even that one with 5 models. So that just goes to show like how strong Volkmar is, like with that leadership buff and all those sustained buffs there. It's paying off well. Granted, I don't think he's like great against all matchups, but against orcs and greenskins, I think he's pretty good. You know, especially if you want to do like a very heavy unbreakable infantry line. So Volkmar and the boys in here are just kind of chasing these guys off, and I believe this was a terror route because he does cause terror. So looks like they're just shaken, but he did terror out one of those groups, if I'm not mistaken. Volkmar just popping his Grand Shield of Faith as well as the Faith Bastion. You can see the prodder of Skarsnik coming in there. Volkmar's definitely had enough of his shit, and he's just going to ride over these savage orcs on his way over, and he's definitely going to run this guy over right here. So he gets a nice little charge there on Goblet and literally goes under the wheels, but it looks like Skarsnik doesn't get knocked over actually, but he is shaken. Most likely going to terror out here in a moment. And you can see just a last charge between the Reiksguard and these Orc Warboy Biggins. You can also see the Empire forces charging up the hill. Feels like that scene in The Patriot, you know, when Mel Gibson's running up the hill and like all the troops are like counter pushing. So the forces of the Emperor have charged in, and it looks like they are going to be able to kind of beat back the Green Tide for now. And things are looking good, guys. Man, Volkmar is so cool. But yeah, that was definitely very well played. At this point, it's pretty much over. 23 seconds. You know, Skarsnik's in pretty bad shape. He has a few tattered troops, but Volkmar's in really good health. You can see he actually does ride over Skarsnik and terrify him. And does that guy? Yeah, so he did swing the hammer in the back. That answers the age-old question. But Again, well played, guys. And something I actually noticed about my opponent is that you guys will see in the breakdown screen, but his name was actually Turin. So for any of you guys that are Lord of the Rings fans, the Silmarillion, or well, Tolkien's extended work, Silmarillion, all that stuff, there's a character named Turin. So the name of my channel is Turin. And Turin is the name of the character from Lord of the Rings. So you guys see, playing the mighty Turin there. Definitely very, very well played. VOLKMAR did good, 85 kills, very disruptive, good at terror routing. Reiksguard, 259 kills there. It's pretty incredible. Granted, it's mostly on goblins, so it's nothing to write home about, but still, guys, good performance from the greatswords too. They seem to perform well, fought to the end, so awesome stuff. For my opponent, I really liked his build. It was definitely new and had some innovation in it. It wasn't just your standard rank and file build. Both of us had pretty ridiculous stuff going on. So well played to the mighty Turin over there. Look forward to seeing you again on Ladder Bud. Nice name, by the way. And guys, hopefully you enjoyed that VOLKMAR cast. Take care.